Hello and welcome back to Around the Campfire with AmeriCamp, the ultimate summer camp podcast. My name is Zara and I'm joined today with Callum, and we're going to be talking about our camp experiences, more so focused on the age groups that we had and how that experience was for us, just to give you all a bit of an insight into that. So Callum, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to you and what you did at your summer at camp?
Hello guys, my name's Callum. I was placed at Camp Lohikan in Pennsylvania, which is based in the Wayne County area. And I was out there as both a mix of a general counsellor and an activity specialist. So the first half of camp really was a general counsellor with the youngest kids, which is what we would class as juniors. And in the second half I was an activity specialist and paired with the oldest boys. Yeah, it was quite a different sort of camp experience compared to quite a lot of people who are mainly just stuck with one age. How about you?
Yeah, so funny that you mentioned about being in Wayne County, to be fair, because I was over at Camp Towanda, which is in the same area. We were there the same year, to be fair, but didn't know each other at the time, so down the road from each other, we didn't even know. But yeah, I was there back in 2022, and I had the oldest age group of girls. They were 15 and 16, and then last summer I moved down to the age group below, which was 14 and 15. So I've always kind of had like the oldest age groups-ish on girls' side. But yeah, obviously different to yourself. I had them the whole way through the summer, so kind of had like 7 weeks with those groups of kids. So got to know them really well, kind of had like a really good bond with them, went to all the activities with them as a general counsellor. But yeah, with like your ages then, how did that work with you changing like age groups? Like when did that kind of happen in the summer?
So yeah, it's quite a strange one really, because the first half of camp I was with the youngest kids at the camp possible, which was around 7 to 9 year olds, and then the second half was the older boys, which was, well, mine was actually 16 plus, so 16 going on to becoming a counsellor. When I was with the youngest kids at the start of camp, when you're in training for that first week, you'll probably get asked what sort of age range you'd like to work with. And I did put the older kids, but I got put with the youngest ones, which wasn't really a problem for me, considering I've had experience with all age range of kids from when I've done that in like college and just coaching in general. When I've done like football and volleyball, stuff like that, I've done it all over here with the kids. So yeah, it definitely helped me going into the younger age, because obviously you have to treat them a lot different compared to the oldest ones. But yeah, it was quite a big shift change, because I said I wanted to try something different halfway through camp. It was coming towards the end of the quarter, which is what we would know as when the kids in that sort of who were there for the first 2 weeks, the periods, will then go home, new set of kids will come in. I wanted to try something different, so that's when I was then promoted to head of sports centre and volleyball. So yeah, my experience with the kids is probably completely different to yours.
I mean, yeah, by the sounds of it, I mean, I was obviously in that general counsellor position. I was with them from, morning till night. Like,
yeah, I didn't have to. That's the difference between the camps. That's what's
really?
So crazy.
That's the thing as well. Like, we have such sort of, I don't know, strong experience, like ideas of what camp is based on our experiences, but it is those really little differences that you don't realise between the camps. Because I would say that our camps were pretty similar, co-ed kind of traditional vibes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, even just like in the daily structure, they differed so much.
Yeah, so different. Like when we got up in the morning, so when I was with the older group, we'd get up in the morning, we'd go straight to have breakfast, then you have flagpole. And I think this is where our days differ, because we specialists, so camp specialists of activities, would then go up into what would be the arts and crafts area where all the tables are laid out. We'd have a big piece of paper and we'd have the periods 1 to 8 listed on them. Mm-hmm. We'd have numbers, so then these kids, all of the kids, we're talking super juniors, so they're 10-year-olds, right. Super juniors to seniors, so 10 to 16-year-olds, would then all come up in lines in their ages, and they would simply have pieces of paper themselves, and they'll come up to the activity they want to do for each period, and then put the name down, be like, hey, I want to do volleyball for period 1, I want to do whatever for period 2, and you'd sign them up if you're in charge of that sport for that day, and they just free roamed throughout the day. We didn't have to be with the kids at all, unless they were the juniors, because obviously they're quite young.
Yeah.
Whereas you was with your kids for the majority of the time, which is
24/7,
crazy,
yeah.
because it's like, it's putting that trust in the kids to free roam like that. And then we did have staff that would go around on the buggy carts, acknowledging if a kid's just wandering about. They'd be like, why are you not at your activity? What activity?
Yeah.
Then they'll get called out for it, but it wasn't actually a problem at all. Like, kids stuck to the regime and stuck to it, whereas obviously you'll be there with them most of the day too.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, obviously your like youngest kids, you're with them all the time because they're new to camp, so you're sort of teaching them the ropes. I guess camp is one of those things, if they go every summer, they know, like, you know, they know the score. So if they're told, like, oh, you can go to whatever activity you want, but, you know, you're supposed to be there, don't just do whatever you want and walk about so we don't know where you are.
Mm-hmm.
If they're kind of given that trust as well, they'll respect, you know, I'm being given a bit of, like, I don't know, what's the word, sort of, I'm being given the choice here of what I want to do. I'm not just being told you're doing this. So you give them that little bit of rope, and it's how they kind of use it. But yeah, really interesting, because we just, the way that mine kind of worked, we'd get like our morning schedule during clean-up time. You know, after breakfast, they'd all be in the bunk cleaning. I'd go to a meeting, get my schedule, and it would say, okay, period 1, you're doing volleyball, then you're doing open swim, then you're doing tennis, then you're doing basketball. And my girls would go and do that, so they wouldn't also be like mixed with the other kids then. With the way that they signed up to the activities, was that like a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old could sign up to the same thing, and then see, that's crazy.
See, that's why
all of ours was split.
Mad. Yeah, it is. That is the craziest thing for me. Is it did work out like that. Like I would be doing individual coaching with like a 13-year-old, and then 4 16-year-olds would come. So then that'd then come down to me to actually do my coaching and split them up evenly, rather than just letting them hit the ball about or whatever people would expect it to be like. That's when you would have to have a bit of professionalism to be like, right, okay, clearly not going to be fair if you're going to have 4 16-year-olds against 3 12-year-olds and a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, split it out evenly. It's just completely different. Like, you know, working with the different age ranges, you just got to treat it so much different. Obviously, you may act like a bit more of a parent, I'd say, with the youngest group of kids, because obviously they need little bit more mollycoddling in terms of the basics, you know, because they are young at the end of the day. 7 to 9-year-olds is when they're probably most developing, when they rely most on the parents at most. And obviously they'll be out there for 2 months for some, but 2 weeks minimum for most. With the older boys, I didn't have a problem. Like, they can be a bit more naughty and misbehave sometimes, but that's just because of their age. And at the end of the day, you can speak to them more like a big brother compared to a parent with them.
Definitely.
Treat me how I would treat you. Have that mutual respect. Try and be as on their side as possible, because at the end of the day, the kids, if you're in a cabin with 12, for me, I had 24. I had 24 of them. So yeah, for me, I'd just recommend getting on their side. Otherwise, they could cause a bit of havoc. But
100%.
Yeah, it was never a problem for me, and I loved it because I loved them boys. They made my experience better.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say. I don't know about you, like how you didn't really have to differentiate between the two age groups, because obviously you were the oldest, but
yeah, it was a pretty similar experience, I guess, with those two age groups, because, you know, most of the kids that were in those groups have been at camp for however many summers each, like probably minimum 6 summers each, so they kind of knew what was going on. So it wasn't, you know, how you would have been with your first group, you know, teaching them the ways of camp and like saying, here's where you go and have your lunch and here's what you do this. They were telling me that, you know.
Literally.
That was one of the things that I really enjoyed about having the older ones, because although I was terrified at first with being put with them, you know, I wanted sort of like middle age. I didn't want the older ones, because I remember how I was as a teenager and I was a nightmare. I don't want anything to do with that.
They're American as well.
Yeah.
Completely different kettle of fish than over here in the UK.
Completely different. Like even their sense of humour is like so different, and you've got to adapt so quickly to it.
For anyone that doesn't know, it's very TikTok-esque. The personality, they are social media kids way more than they are UK. Like, as you said just then, you was a bit terrified going into it at first.
Yeah.
But like
100%.
when I went from the youngest to the oldest, I literally saw the list of 24 16 plus boys who have been going to this camp for 5 years. When I was at that cabin, when I saw them all arrive, and I was stood at the foot of that cabin, I mean, I'm going to throw shade at myself. I'm 5'10". These kids are like 6 foot, 6'3". Like, honestly, some of these kids towered me, and I'm there on my own for the first part with these boys. Obviously, they don't know me. They've never met me before. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you've just got to put your foot down from the get-go. Make them know who you are in the most polite way, but at the same time, know that they can have a bit of fun, and relax around you. So
definitely, I'd say, I mean, to be fair, in terms of my past experience with kids over here, I've only ever done sort of primary school age, and specifically sort of I guess reception year 1 and year 2, and I'd never had a major experience with the older ones. And I'd say the difference between that is the little ones, they idolize you. They want, I know with my friends that worked on lower camp, the kids wanted their counsellors to pick out their outfits, and they wanted them to play every sport with them, and they wanted to try and beat them in basketball and all this.
Never happened.
Older
Never let them
ones,
win.
They're not fussed.
Yeah.
They don't get me wrong, they want to get to know you. They want to, be your friend, but they're not.
Laugh, don't they?
Yeah, they want to have a laugh, and especially because they've all been at camp before. They know, as I said, they know what's going on. They know the whole situation, so they don't need you to teach them anything. The major thing is just as soon as you get put with them and you first meet them, it's just getting that level of respect. Because as soon as you've sort of showed them how it's going to be, and we're here to have a fun time, but there's a line.
Yeah.
Then you're sorted. And as soon as you've got that level of respect for them, you'll have an absolute blast. All of my kids were just my little best mates.
I literally had a boy in my cabin that was called Thanos. I literally had a kid called Thanos. If that isn't more intimidating, I don't know what is. The boy was literally 6'2", towered over me, had a deeper voice than me, everything. And the boy was 16. And I found that absolutely insane. It was crazy. Another thing to probably bring up, actually, whilst we're on the topic of the mixed age groups, is staying in the cabins with the kids. I know for some people it might be a bit strange when you first think about it, because obviously you're not related to them, siblings, whatever. But honestly, with the youngest kids and the oldest kids, same exact concept. It's not a problem. It didn't faze me as soon as I got there. At first, it was a bit it might be a bit strange, but at the end of the day, the whole point of this experience is getting out your comfort zone. And the first night, honestly, you don't think anything of it. You're tired, they're going to conk out equally as you, right? Mm-hmm. So, difference with the youngest is they will go bed most likely an hour or two earlier. They will have their curfew earlier than the older kids. So I took them to bed around 9:15. Latest to go to sleep would be around 10 o'clock, and you've got to make that clear with them. Otherwise, they can just run wild. Especially if they have any sugar, having the sugar rush. We don't want any of that. But with the older boys, it was a bit harder to obviously keep them in. Try to word this. It was harder for them to get to sleep than it was the younger kids, because obviously they're a lot older. They want
to test the limits.
They want to test it. They want to try and stay up as long as they can, having a laugh with the boys.
Especially with the very oldest as well.
They've been there for years. They know what it's like. They know what they can get away with. Yeah. And like I said, you just got to have that fine line with them for them to understand that A, you want to get your sleep, so they have to respect that. B, if they don't want to get told off or whatnot, they have to get to sleep as well. So yeah, it is a fine line with.
It's like we said with those limits, and making sure that you lay the law straight away. Yeah. You have those boundaries. My girls, my first year, the way that the bunk was, it wasn't one of those huge wooden bunks with just kind of beds everywhere. They were all in these separate rooms with 4 beds in each room, and I slept in a different bedroom, I guess, to the rest of them, so I couldn't see them.
What?
Yeah,
you had a separate bedroom?
Yeah, in my first summer it was wild. All my friends couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd say that's lucky. Yeah, that's lucky. I mean, like I said, it didn't faze me. I was in the room with the kids. No. It didn't faze me, but that's royalty.
That's what I was prepared for, to have this traditional.
It's what
like,
most
big
camps
bunk.
are, to be fair.
Exactly, but that's what mine is for the rest of the age groups. But the oldest girls and the oldest boys, to be fair, the boys are in this thing called the club, and they all have separate bedroom. Well, not separate. There's like 4 of them in each bedroom. And then for the girls, it's called the dorm, and it's this building with one main corridor, and there's just bedrooms off of the side of it with 2 bunk beds in it. So we'd have a counsellor bedroom at one end of the corridor and a counsellor bedroom at the other one. So we covered like the exits basically for the bunk, but all the kids were just doing what they wanted in the middle. So that was a bit more difficult with bedtime, because I then had to, walk around to each room, make sure that they turned their lights off, make sure that they were all still in the rooms, like make sure that they were going to sleep at a certain time. So that was a real sort of test of like the respect and the boundaries of being like, right, I will let you, sit up with your night lights and chat until, I don't know, say like 11 or 12. But then at that point, it's then up to you to, go to sleep, because you're going to be,
really.
Yeah, exactly. Respect for the rest of the people in your room. Like, you're going to be so tired in the morning if you don't go to sleep. And sometimes they would be up till whatever time chatting. Yeah. But
that's honestly baffled me how you just laid that out.
Oh yeah.
Like, mine was literally a long cabin with single beds on either side. You walk down and it's literally one on either side, and you had 24 sat in there. That is insane.
That was mine this summer, just gone. But I'll be back in the dorm again this year with the separate bedrooms. And I shared that room with one other counsellor, but she had to leave halfway through the summer. So I had a room to myself for half the summer.
Yeah, literally myself. But yeah, it is an incredible experience. And for anyone that is listening, it is something that I would recommend the world, regardless whether you want to get out of your comfort zone or not. Is something completely different you're used to. Whether you got experience with kids or not, it's an eye-opener for a lot of people. If you're going in an introvert, you're coming out an extrovert, and I'll put my entire life savings on it.
100%.
It is literally such a great experience for anyone to make new friends, even develop relationships with like the parents of the kids, because you never know what could happen. You never know who you could meet.
Definitely.
I'm always getting messages from the kids' parents to be like, oh, we'd love to have you back. And even potential talks of like au pairing. For anyone that doesn't know anything about that, as essentially you just living with the family that class you as an au pair. They pay you a salary, they pay you...
It's like being a nanny, isn't it? It's like a live-in nanny.
Yeah, you literally drop them off to school, you have the full day to yourself, you get given... It depends what the family's like, but realistically, it's great, okay? So you never know who you could meet. Staff-wise, I had 250 staff, met the best people in my life through doing this experience. The kids, I would go back again to see these kids. They absolutely adored me. Like I said from the beginning, I'm not going to get attached to any of these kids, or I'm not going to be upset when they leave. I was in bits the day that they left. There's pictures of me that will never get shared, of me in absolute tears, which is very not me to these kids. And there was one kid called Luca, and he was an 8-year-old lad from Mexico. He could speak very, very broken English when he came to camp. By the end of it, I could have a full-on conversation with him, because I'd sit with him and I'd help him with his English, and he could speak really good English by the end of it. I tell you now, that boy is going to be a professional footballer one day. He would take the mickey out of all of the male counsellors, all of the female counsellors, all of the other kids, easily at the young age of 8. And when that boy left, it killed me off. And like I said, you with the experience of kids, even if you might be that person who's like, I'm not really a fan of kids, trust me, when you do something like this, you will
100%.
It'll change your mind.
For sure. Even kids that I wasn't like in their group, just other ones on girls' camp that I'd like had some kind of contact with over the summer, devastated when they were leaving. You're there too long to not form that like really special bond with them.
You're with them all the time.
Exactly. All the time.
You are literally a big brother, big sister.
Yeah, 100%. If you're with the little ones, you may be like a mum or an auntie, just because they need that more support. But older camp, upper camp, you're big brother, big sister. And they love you just as much as the little ones do.
For a lot of people,
they just don't like to tell you.
A lot of people going to do this experience, this program. 18, 19, most of you will be. Like I'm 25 myself. I didn't know I was 23, but there's a lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are literally going out to do this program straight out of university or just before it. And think about it, these kids in the older groups, they're like 2 years younger than you.
Yeah.
So you realistically are not that much of a difference in terms of maturity or
That's
anything in that. And that's where you can have your conversation with these people like they're your friends.
Exactly. That's one of the best things that I think, you know how you said with when you were picking groups at the start of the summer, we had it that the group leaders like pitched their group to us and they said like the pros and the cons of that age group.
We had that as well, to be fair. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we all sat on the tennis court and the little ones, they're like, oh, they're so cute. And then it got to the old one, you're like, gosh, why would I want to be with teenagers? And they go, but let me tell you.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing of, especially if, fresh into uni, say 18, 19, as you said, they're not that much younger than you. You can really relate to them and have like a proper conversation with them. They want to know about like your life in England. Some of them might not have been to England before. Some of them might not have left the US. They want to know like about your travelling. Quite a lot of mine were starting to think about like uni and stuff. So they were asking what I did at university and all that sort of stuff. And you can, rather than just, playing random little games with the little kids in the bunks, you can have a proper like real life conversation, which, yeah, I really loved because you develop way more of like a bond that way with them.
Yeah, 100%. It's different for each camp's different, but the experience is always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter which camp you go to, you're gonna have the best time. I mean, if we're even talking about age groups expanding from 16-year-olds, you've got special needs camps where it can become young adults to old adults, and even still, you'll have just as much of a good experience with them as you would the younger kids that you commonly conceptualize with this sort of program. And with that, being said, it'll really bring out the best of you that you don't think is there.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Even like maturity levels. I went
Massively.
into camp thinking, how old was I my first year? I was 21, and I was like, yeah, I'm mature. I had a full-time job in my gap year. I've been at uni a couple of years now. I've been through COVID. I'm great. And then I'm looking after like 20-odd 15-year-olds every day for 7 weeks.
You.
Exactly. Came out of it, completely different perspective.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I grew up so much doing it.
100%. I mean, probably to more like wrap this up, it's to really push the fact that anyone who's listening, if you have no childcare experience, or even if you do, it'll suit you to a T.
100%.
Just feel confident in yourself. Honestly, you'll have the best time of your life. You're literally spending 2-3 months in America. Like, who gets to say they can do that? You're literally having a laugh with all your mates. You're having a laugh with the kids. You're having a laugh even with the parents, the staff, you name it. It is just so different to what you used to, and yeah, it'll really open your eyes up to things to add in your CV, experience in general, and just like I'd probably say even like morals and like how you see your life from
yourself. 100%.
Way different. Yeah.
But I guess then to sort of wrap it up, a little bit of advice for our applicants. I'd say in terms of being in line with what we talked about with all the age groups, I was put with an age group that I didn't think I wanted. Cried for about 2 days straight. Anyone on camp can tell you that I was a mess for 2 days. And then I had the best summer ever. But, and I go up to the head counsellors at the end of camp, the end of that 7 weeks, and I said, you know what, you might have been right. Had a great time. And they said, so we told you were going to get on with the 15-year-olds. And, now been back for another year, had the same pretty much age group, going to go back this year and have that same age group again. So
You see them develop and grow as well.
Exactly. That's the best bit. Like, my kids from my first summer, they're going to uni in September.
Yeah.
And it's wild. Like, they're all having their proms at the moment.
Yeah, mad.
But, yeah, so if you get put with an age group that you're not too sure about, always give it a go. Because the head counsellors, they've been there years. They're going to know what's up. They're going to know where to put you, and you will thrive there. But yeah, so that's all we've got time for today, really. It's been really nice having you on the podcast, Cal. Really good hearing all about your experience. I feel like I've heard loads of bits, but I've got a proper insight into it now. And I hope that all the listeners have got a bit more of an insight into kind of, I guess, the daily workings of, I guess, 2 of the many camps that are out there. And hopefully your experiences, if you're going out there this summer, are as good as ours were. And if not, sign up for AmeriCamp 2025.
Yeah.
You can have just as good a time as we did.
There we go.
Call up the office and you can speak to Cal.
That's it, yeah. You'll probably speak to me at some point. But yeah, catch you all soon. Take care and hope to see you out there next year.
Yep. Bye.